Today, we're going to harvest this giant wheat field. It's going to take a little while, so I found some pretty creepy Reddit stories to read while I do that. The first one is from r/scary stories. It's titled, "My husband told me we never had a daughter. The terrifying part is that I almost believed him." I need you to understand something before I start. I'm a primary school teacher. I'm not dramatic. I do not catastrophize. I correct children's spelling and pack lunches and know every parent's name and their dog's name and which kid needs an extra 5 minutes. I'm the most grounded person I know. I'm telling you this because what I'm about to write sounds like the confession of someone who isn't. Her name is Ellie. She's 18 months old. She has her father's jaw and my eyes and a way of destroying every block tower she builds immediately after completing it, like she's testing a theory about impermanence. She says 4 words. She smells like warm bread after a bath. When I sing a specific song, 3 lines, a melody I made up in the dark during a 4 a.m. feed, she stops whatever she's doing and turns toward the sound. I know she's real. I know she's real because I found her shoe behind the radiator. Let me go back. Leo and I met in a bookshop. He took a book off the shelf before I could reach it and held it out to me with a half-apologetic smile. Force of habit, sorry. He'd read it 3 times. He didn't follow me when I walked away. That was the first thing I noticed about him. Most men would have. Leo didn't chase. He positioned. He was interesting and he let me decide. I decided. He was the managing director of M&A, an investment bank. He was charming in a way that made you feel specifically chosen rather than generally approved of. He remembered everything. The exact words of a conversation from 6 months prior. The name of a student I'd mentioned once in passing. You were listening, and he'd say, "I always listen." I thought that was love. I now know what it actually was. He wasn't storing memories. He was building a key. We married 3 years after the bookshop. Ellie came 18 months later. We had a house with a garden and neighbors we liked, Sarah and David Henderson. Warm people. The kind who bring you food when you're ill, and a life that looked, from every angle I could find, like the thing you spend your 20s hoping for. And then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, it started. The first thing was small. We were at dinner, the 3 of us, normal Tuesday, and mid-sentence, Leo just stopped. Not paused to think, stopped. Eyes open, completely present, but displaying nothing, like a screen that's on but not running anything. Leo? Nothing. Leo. He blinked. Continued the sentence from exactly where he left off. Same tone, same pace, as if no time had passed. You just stopped. What? Mid-sentence, you just stopped and stared at me. Lisa, I didn't stop. I was talking. I let it go. I was tired. Ellie wasn't sleeping through yet, and I was running on 4 hours most nights. I told myself it was the kind of thing tired people imagine. The next week, the coffee mug in the wrong place. A conversation I remembered differently from him. Furniture shifted by a few inches. Not moved exactly, just off. Like a photograph hung slightly wrong. I'd come home once to find him sitting in the living room with the TV off, watching my reflection in the dark screen. He didn't know I'd seen. Each thing, small. Each thing, deniable. Each thing, mine to explain away. I started explaining a lot of things away. I confronted him eventually. Calmly, I sat down with him after Ellie was in bed and I laid out my examples carefully, the way I'd worked up to it for weeks. He listened all the way through. When I finished, he paused. Then, "How long have you been feeling this way?" Not answering me, turning it. He told me I hadn't been sleeping properly, that sleep deprivation causes memory distortion, that I'd been under stress since going back to work. He touched my face with the specific touch I loved. "Come back to bed." I went. 3 days later, he told me he'd spoken to a psychiatrist, just to get some context. He suggested we come in together, or you could go alone, whatever feels right. I just want you to feel better. Dr. Reeves was in his 50s, patient and professional. His office was designed to feel safe. I talked, he listened, and he took notes. His notepad was open when I sat down. 2 words already written. Husband concerned. I didn't register it properly at the time. I do now, though. He started bringing me tea before bed. I don't know exactly when the medication changed. Dr. Reeves had prescribed something mild, something to help with sleep and anxiety. Leo started making the tea around the same time. It seemed caring. It seemed like exactly the sort of thing he would do. The nightmares started on the third night. Ellie's room, Leo standing over her crib. He turns, the knife in his hand, his face completely calm. He picks her up. I try to scream and nothing comes out. I woke gasping, Leo beside me, peaceful, asleep. I went to Ellie's room and stood in the doorway until my breathing slowed. She was fine. I told myself it was a new medication, but I didn't tell Leo. The nightmares escalated. 3 nights running, each longer, more specific. The third time I woke up screaming, and Leo was already holding me. Already there before I fully surfaced. His arms around me, his face against my hair. His eyes open in the dark, looking at nothing. I was too frightened to think about how he was already awake. I lost a Friday night. This is the part that's hardest to write because I still don't have full access to it. I remember a bath, a glass of wine Leo had poured, closing my eyes, and then I woke up in bed on Saturday morning with damp hair and my pajamas on and no memory of getting out of the water. I went downstairs. The living room stopped me in the doorway. Same room, same dimensions, same bones, but the curtains were different. Photos on the wall showing things I didn't remember. A Venice trip I had no memory of. Occasions I couldn't place. A version of our life I didn't recognize. Like someone had taken everything familiar and shifted it 3 degrees. Leo managed it with complete warmth. He named the Venice anniversary. He reminded me of the restaurant, the dress I'd worn, the thing I said on the bridge, and the horrible part, the part I can't fully forgive myself for, is that I almost remembered. I let him hold me. Over my shoulder, his face was nothing. The expression of a man waiting. I think I need to see someone. I've been thinking the same thing. He hit me on a Thursday. Normal Thursday, good dinner, half a bottle of wine. Ellie in bed. I was telling him something funny from school. I was telling it well. He was laughing at the right moments. And I turned to put a plate in the rack. He hit me so hard, I went into the counter edge first. I didn't understand what had happened. No pain yet, just the world had stopped making grammatical sense. I turned toward him, and the second one put me on the floor. He crouched beside me, not enraged, not out of control, with the same energy he uses for everything. Measured, deliberate, and focused. He hit me the way he closes a deal, like finishing a task. His face the whole time was neutral, present, and he was completely silent. No grunt of effort, no change in breathing. I stopped trying to get up after the second time. Something animal understood that movement was making it worse. I went still and I looked at Ellie's plastic cup by the fridge, and I focused on it completely while the room went strange around the edges. Then he stopped. Not because I did anything. He was just done. He stood up, straightened, looked at me on the floor with that same neutral assessment, and then he stepped over me. Not past me. Over me. And he went upstairs. I got up. I turned off the tap he'd left running, and I put cling film over the leftovers and put them in the fridge. I wiped down the counter and washed the plates, and dried them and put them away. I cleaned the kitchen because my brain needed something to do that made sense. If I could just make the kitchen normal, maybe the last 10 minutes hadn't happened the way I thought they did. I got into bed beside him. I lay in the dark, not knowing if he was asleep. I didn't know which would be worse. I woke up on Sunday. 2 days gone. My body felt wrong in a way that wasn't quite pain. More like a wrongness that had been distributed evenly through everything. Leo was sitting up beside me reading. Coffee on the bedside table, like every Sunday morning of our marriage. He told me I'd had an episode, the worst yet. That he'd come downstairs and I hadn't recognized him. That I was aggressive. That I'd hurt myself against the counter. That he and Dr. Reeves had gotten me upstairs between them. I took your memory of being beaten, kept the kitchen, the floor, the pain, replaced the cause. I know that now. I didn't know it then. I just knew that I looked at my arms and there was nothing. No marks, completely clean. And I couldn't find Thursday. And Leo's hands came over mine on the breakfast table, and I asked him, "Did you hit me?" He looked at me with something that looked like heartbreak. "Is that what you think happened?" "I don't know what I think. I know," a pause, "I know you don't." Said so gently. I looked over at his hand over mine, the specific hand I had held for 7 years. I didn't pull away, because pulling away would have meant deciding, and I didn't have enough ground under my feet to decide anything. He took Ellie on a Wednesday night. I know that's when because the shoe was still by the crib on Tuesday. I know because I had kissed her goodnight and sung the song, and she had turned toward my voice and gone to sleep with her arms out, the way she always did. He brought me tea before bed. I drank it. I followed him upstairs. All right, so this is either some top tier gaslighting, or maybe all right, every time she has an episode, I notice that he gets her a drink. So maybe he's drugging her. Anyways, I woke up and reached toward the crib, and my hand closed on air. I went to her room. A room, bare, clean, and wrong. I opened the wardrobe, empty. I got on my knees and opened the toy drawer, empty. I checked behind the curtains and under the changing table and inside the wardrobe again, as if the second time would produce different results. Leo appeared in the doorway, sleep-rumpled and genuinely confused. "Where is she? Who? Where's Ellie? Where's my daughter?" His face, the specific tragedy of his face. We never had a child. I went through every room. Ellie had been removed from every surface of my life, every photograph, every toy, every piece of clothing. 7 words, and she was gone from the world as thoroughly as if she had never been in it. I came back to Leo standing in the hallway watching me search, and I stopped, in the middle of the hall, and went quiet. Not breakdown, not rage, just silence, where a person used to be. Leo held me on the floor, his arms around me, his voice low and steady, the voice I had loved for 7 years. "I'm here. I'm right here." I sat inside his arms, inside his house, inside the reality he had built around me, completely alone. I found the photograph 3 days later. Reaching into the back of the closet, my hand found a corner of something caught behind the winter coats. I pulled it out. 3 people, me, Leo, and Ellie. She is real. She was here. She's real. I heard his car in the driveway. I tucked it inside my waistband, stood up, and went to start dinner. That night, he brought me my pill. I looked at it in my palm. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. Careful, small, slightly behind my own eyes, but underneath that, still there. Still there. I put the pill in my pocket, got into bed, Leo beside me reading. "Did you take it?" A beat. Yes. I lay in the dark with the pill in my fist, eyes open, clearer than I had been in months. Some hours later, I felt a tap on my shoulder, gentle and deliberate, but I didn't move, didn't change my breathing. I heard a drawer, the sound of something lifted, considered, replaced. Leo getting back into bed. I found out later what he had been holding. I don't need to write it here, you can work it out. In the morning, I made tea while he showered. I packed only what fit in one bag. I moved through the house with the deliberateness of someone who has been planning something in their head for days without admitting it. I went to the Hendersons, and I was going to ask Sarah to call the police. I had the photograph. I had the shoe I'd found behind the radiator. I was going to show her the room at the back of the closet, the small room with toys arranged on a shelf and children's books stacked neatly, and a name written carefully on the wall in soft letters. Ellie. Sarah opened the door with her warm, worried face. "Please, I need to call the police. I have proof. There's a room in my house." She stepped aside to let me in, and I heard it. From somewhere deeper in the house, the small sound a baby makes when they stir without fully waking. My body knew before my mind did. My eyes went past Sarah's shoulder and down the hallway, and there, in the dim light, a cradle. She had been here. Every night I lay in that house being taken apart, my daughter was a wall away. Every morning I woke up beside the man who told me she didn't exist. She was sleeping in that cradle, 20 feet from our front door. Sarah moved between me and the corridor, gentle and instinctive. She already had her phone in hand. He's worried about you. We all are. I looked past her. Ellie was awake now. A tiny arm appeared above the cradle's edge, reaching. The reaching of a baby who senses their mother is near. My hand came up without my choosing it, fingers spread. Reaching back across 20 feet of the hallway, everything he'd put between us. Sarah shifted slightly, blocking more of the corridor, still talking, still completely certain she was doing the right thing. I looked at my daughter for a long time, then I turned. Not heroically, my body just moved, because staying was no longer something I could physically do. Leo was standing at the end of our driveway when I got outside. Not blocking me, not threatening, just standing there, hands at his sides. With that quality he has of making you feel like the only thing in his field of vision. He didn't need to do anything, he just stood there, and I stopped. I walked toward him slowly, stopped a few feet away. The room. That was all I said, not a question, just the room. He looked at me and did something more disturbing than dropping the mask. He looked almost sad. One final attempt, even here, even now. Lisa, come inside. You're not well. I didn't argue. I just looked at him with the clearest eyes I'd had in months. I know what you did. Something changed in his face. The warmth switched off like a light. What was underneath wasn't monstrous. That would have been easier. It was just empty. The faintest trace of something that wasn't quite a smile. A man who finds a minor development mildly interesting. So you found out. Not surprised, not angry. I asked him the only question that mattered, my voice barely above a whisper. Why? He looked at me the way he had looked at me 1,000 times across 7 years. That specific look I used to think was love. I understand in that moment what it had always been. Because I can. Not theatrical, not cruel. 3 words said quietly and completely, like the simplest and most obvious answer to the simplest and most obvious question. Like he genuinely couldn't understand why I needed to ask. I'm posting this because I need someone to believe me. I have a psychiatric record that says I'm delusional. I have a husband that everybody likes. I have neighbors who will tell you, sincerely and with genuine concern, that Leo did everything he could. I have a doctor who wrote "husband concerned" in his notepad before I said a single word. What I have, 1 photograph, 1 small shoe, and myself. Just barely, but enough. I don't know where I am right now. I'm not going to say. I don't know what happens next with Ellie. That part's too raw and too complicated, and I can't write it yet. I know I'm going to get her back. I know that with the same certainty I know she's real. If anyone reading this recognizes what I've described, the small corrections in public, the warmth everyone else sees, the way your own memory starts to feel like the enemy territory, please, trust the thing underneath, the part that's still there. It's still there. The most dangerous person in your life is not the one who learned exactly how you love. The song has 3 lines. It's not much of a melody. I made it up at 4 a.m. in a dark room over a crib, half asleep, not thinking about anything except this small person who needed to hear my voice. She turns toward it. She always turned toward it. That is not something you can gaslight out of a child. She knows her mother. She knows. Wow, so that was part 1 of that story, and we're gonna read part 2 for sure. So yeah, her husband's an absolute psychopath. He was gaslighting her and drugging her, and had everybody fooled. It's actually quite terrifying that it'd be really easy for someone to actually do this. Like, this could actually be a true story. So I had to search a bit for part 2. Here it is. My husband told me we never had a daughter. The terrifying part is that I almost believed him. Part 2. The tap is still running. I want to tell you what happened after. I'm in a motel bathroom. Tap's running. I need the tap running, okay? I need the sound of something normal, because silence is where Leo lives. And I cannot be in silence right now. I can't. 53 hours. That's how long I've been awake. 53. Okay. He said, because I can. That was the answer. To why. To all of it. 8 months of small corrections and moved furniture and missing days and a daughter removed from every surface of my life like she never existed. And that was what he gave me. Because I can. My hand moved before I did. The sound it made was wrong. Too loud. Way too loud for that street at that hour and the neighbors. Sarah and David came to their door. I saw them. He didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. Just turned his jaw back toward me slowly. Same face, same nothing face, and said it. Alicia would never have done that. Give me a second. That name, that specific name in his mouth on that street. I need you to understand what that means because I've never, not drunk, not asleep, not in 7 years of marriage, not in the 3 before that, not in any room Leo has ever been in, I have never said that name to him. Never, not once. Alicia is mine. She's the part of me that existed before Leo. The locked room. The one I was so careful with. I kept her like, I don't know. Like something you cup your hands around so the wind doesn't get it. Was. My voice came out wrong. How do you know that name? He just looked at me. Not angry, not surprised. Just a man for who this is neither new nor interesting. He already knew I'd ask. He already knew what my face would do. He had probably known for years and kept it the way you keep a spare key. Not because you need it now, just because you like knowing the door is yours. I didn't wait for the answer. I'm done. I am done walking through doors Leo built. I am just done. I ran. Shoe in one hand, photo in the other, and I ran the way you run when something animal in you has already decided and your conscious mind is just catching up. I heard Sarah behind me. Lisa, you're not well. I didn't stop. I couldn't stop because every single time I've stopped, it's cost me something. My certainty, my memory, my kitchen floor, my daughter. I looked back once. Leo was standing exactly where I left him, not watching me and not moving. Just standing there with his hands at his sides like a man waiting for a bus. Like a man who isn't worried because he knows the bus is coming. He didn't follow me. That should have felt like something good, but it didn't. I told the officer everything, laid it all out, carefully and in order. The photo, the shoe, the room behind the closet, the notepad with husband concerned written before I said a single word. 8 months of it. I put it all on the desk between us, and I watched his face, and I knew. I already knew. Officer Marsh. He was at our engagement dinner, our housewarming. That charity thing Leo did 2 years ago where I stood making small talk about someone's garden while Leo worked the room, being exactly whatever everyone needed him to be. Officer Marsh, who has shaken Leo's hand, who looked at me across a dinner table once and said, "You're a lucky woman," like he meant it, like it was obvious. Leo wrote my story in his head before I walked through that door. His face? Not unkind, worried actually, genuinely worried. For Leo. My phone lit up on the desk between us. It was Leo. I looked at the phone, I looked at Officer Marsh's face, and I looked at the door. I ran again. I don't know what time it is. I've actually lost track. Ellie's feeding time came and went, I think maybe an hour ago, but maybe more. And I sat on the floor of a bus shelter and just cried. Properly. The kind I haven't let myself do since this started because she is in that cradle, 20 feet from my front door. It's the time of night when she wakes up and reaches for me, and I'm not there. I'm not there. I'm sitting on a bus shelter floor 8 miles away, and I'm not there. I can't use my card. He has access to everything. I had $40 cash in my bag, habit from my mother, something Leo used to call endearing. He called everything endearing. God, and I found this motel and paid in notes, and the man at the desk didn't ask questions, and I think I looked like someone you just don't ask questions of, and that's fine. I'm in the bathroom because the bedroom has a mirror. I'm not ready for the mirror yet. I don't know which face I'd see. He knows about Alicia, which means he went looking, which means before the bookshop, before the smile, before the book held out like a gift, he already knew. He'd already found the locked rooms. The ones I was so careful with. The ones I thought no one could reach because I never let anyone get close enough to even know they existed. Side note, at this point in the story, I'm kind of believing she's crazy, but I don't know if that's just really good writing or, maybe this is Leo's point of view because Leo has got me fooled into thinking she's crazy. But I don't know, man. I gotta keep reading. I don't know what she means to him. I don't know how he found her. I don't know if saying her name was a warning or a promise or just another key he cut before he needed it. Just, Leo always has a just in case. I know what it felt like when he said it. It felt like he'd been standing inside me the whole time, in the part I thought was only mine. The tap is still running. Somewhere in this city, my daughter is waking up and reaching for me. I'm going to sleep now. 2 hours, 3 if I can. Then I'm going to think. Clearly, cleanly, without the pills. Without him. About what happens next. He didn't follow me. He let me run. I've been awake long enough to know that means something. Leo doesn't make unplanned decisions. Leo doesn't let things happen to him. If I'm free tonight, it's because free is useful to him right now. I just don't know what it's useful for yet. The tap is still running. I need it to keep running. Just a little longer. Jeez, that was pretty creepy. I'm really looking forward to reading your guys' take on this, because this story leaves you thinking at the end. It leaves you wondering, is she crazy? Is he crazy? Are they both crazy? This is like next level writing. That was really good. The next story today is also from r/scary stories from Trash Tia. Do not babysit the Hawthorne children. You have been warned. Mom ambushed me with a question first thing this morning. Hey, what do you think of babysitting? I choked on my apple. I'm good. The smell of pancakes and detergent in the morning never failed to remind me that I was a disappointment. My girlfriend and I broke up, so I moved back home. I wasn't quite sure when I started to rant. Somewhere between pouring my cereal, tapping on Imogen's Instagram profile, and seeing her latest post, but it was too late to stop now. Even if I did want to destroy my body to give you the grandchildren I supposedly owe you, I'd rather not bring them into a world that doesn't give a shit about them. Mom, lips curved around the rim of her coffee mug, rolled her eyes. Sienna. She fixed me with a disappointing glare. It's a job. I wasn't asking for a lecture. Her gaze flicked to her phone screen. You don't need to like children. She held it up so I could see. 3 5-year-olds. There's an option to sleep over, and she's offering $350 per child. That's pretty good. That got my attention. Sure, I dislike kids, but not kids collectively. It depends on how they were raised. Take my little stepbrother Rayleigh, for example. Insufferable iPad baby. Every time I visited my mom, there he sat, cross-legged on the floor, hypnotized by the screen while she played Mother of the Year. Which was ironic, since SpongeBob was actually putting in all the work. He is now the devil incarnate, which I threatened to break his Switch because he wouldn't give it back. He burst into tears and told her I tried to push him down the stairs. I haven't been invited back. But, wait, $350 each? I feigned disinterest, stirring my cereal into a soupy mess. I was slightly intrigued, begrudgedly. My phone lit up with a notification. Imogen. I averted my gaze, my stomach twisting. That much per child? That was diabolical. Either the mom was like rich, or the kids were hell's offspring. Mom raised her brows over the phone, sipping her coffee with one hand and scrolling with the other. She looked almost triumphant, a smile creeping onto her lips, like babysitting 3 brats could single-handedly change my stance on motherhood. Oh, now you're interested? Mom handed me her phone, and I took it hesitantly. There's the address. I saw a boy around your age already commented, so be quick. She leaned back. As for the lecture, sweetie, you know at some point you will be expected to have children. Her words were like needle pricks into my spine. I ignored her, just like I did when I was a teenager, and started scrolling through the comments. Sure enough, a recent college graduate named Sam, with a degree in nursing and the typing style of an MLM victim, Hi, I'm Sam, had already attached his extensive resume. I disliked his comment, and remembering I was on my mom's account, panicked and undid it. The post itself was simple, from one sunny Hawthorne. whose profile picture was a horse. Working mom needs a night babysitter to look after my 3 beautiful angels. We'll pay extra if you can start tonight. 3 well-behaved 5-year-old darlings who will immediately fall in love with. I tapped her profile. Private. You'd think she'd be posting these beautiful darlings publicly. Sienna, Mom said. She had that tone again. Like when I hit 20 and she immediately started hinting she wanted to be a grandmother one day. The emotional manipulation was exhausting, but she continued, because living under her roof, my mother was entitled to constantly remind me of her wishes. Your body is a clock, remember that. I would love to have a little Sienna running around my house. I'm a lesbian, I muttered, texting myself the address and all but tossing her phone at her. Mom drained her coffee. I'll pay for your IVF. I pointedly ignored that, jumping to my feet. Babysitting sounds more fun than this. Can I borrow the car? Another text from Imogen lit up my screen. I swiped it away. Mom didn't even look at me, picking at her pancakes, sitting there in her silk gown, completely financially stable, in a house she was lucky to have, with her biggest problems being that her book club got canceled or running late for her $200 manicure. Infuriating. Of course, she said, her attention already reclaimed by Facebook. By the way, Imogen called. Even when I was a kid, I never cried in front of Mom. I had a foolproof technique, pressing my knuckles into my eyes until the tears disappeared. Hiding it as an adult was harder. Imogen was the one who brought up having kids at 22, even though she knew how I felt. She said we could make it work, and I wanted to believe her, but neither of us had stable jobs. We shared the opinion until, one day, my ex-girlfriend got brainwashed by my crazy mother and suddenly wanted a huge family, and I didn't, so that was that. My throat closed up, my eyes stinging, chest aching. Suffocation wasn't an unfamiliar feeling. A hollow, agonizing something I couldn't name, twisting in my chest and bleeding into my stomach. Heartache, frustration, and the weight on my shoulders that wouldn't let me breathe. I ran out of the kitchen, pushing my knuckles into my eyes, and when that didn't work, squeezed my nose until my silent sobs subsided. I left the house with a bitter taste in my mouth. Mom's words trailed after me, a stagnant stench of familiar disappointment in the air that I couldn't escape. You know she loves you, Sienna. I think the 2 of you should talk. Imogen is the smart one, remember. I was slowly coming to the realization that I no longer wanted my mom in my life. As if she'd sprinkled her mom magic into my cereal, my opinion on motherhood shifted the moment I met the Hawthorne children. For maybe 2 seconds. The Hawthorne home was exactly what I expected. Just one in a long line of picturesque white picket fence, nuclear family cookie cutters straight out of the 1950s. I slipped on Mom's heels, tugged open the perfectly painted white gate, and clacked my way to the door. Taking a few deep breaths, I mentally rehearsed my greeting one last time. Hi, I'm Sienna. I adore children. I knocked, my heart beating out of my chest. Come on in, a cheery voice called from inside. The door swung open, and I was greeted by the blaring sound of what seemed to be a YouTube video playing at tinnitus-inducing volume. I took an uncertain step over the threshold, nearly tripping over a boy who was frantically trying to make his great escape to the porch. For a moment, just a moment, my cynicism about motherhood shattered, and I was left wondering if maybe Mom was right. That motherly instinct she always talked about, what I thought was BS. Was that what was coming over me? A sudden, almost feral urge to scoop up the little boy and swing him around? He was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. A curly mess of brunette tangles I immediately wanted to ruffle. When I saw cute things, whether that was cats, baby animals, or tiny objects, I immediately had a baby voice on standby. He was no exception. Chubby cheeks, wide brown eyes, and the most adorable little scowl on his face as he blinked up at me. The kid's frantic eyes flashed behind me as he made a desperate attempt to crawl through my legs. I smiled down at him. Hello. I forced a big, friendly smile, but the boy's eyes popped open. His nostrils flared. This kid looked pissed, like ready to tantrum pissed. I understood why parents were so obsessed with keeping their kids close. Little ones really did try to toddle straight out the front door. On instinct, I bent down and lifted it in my arms. He yelped, squirming in my grip and battering me with his fists. "Let go of me!" I was not expecting this 5-year-old kid to look me directly in the eyes, his little face scrunched up, tears streaming down his cheeks. I was expecting some kind of fit, but this kid was absolutely pissed. He swung his head around, trying to tear out of my arms, his little fingers reaching for the door. "I said, let me go!" he screamed, battering me with his fist once again. "Let me go!" I almost dropped him. "Hey," I whispered, trying to calm him. I was surprised by my own soothing tone, but it seemed to anger him even more, sending him into hysterics. "Your mom invited me," I told him. "It's okay." The kid's gaze snapped to me, and it was so fast, his head jerking almost inhumanely, a shiver slid down my spine. His eyes were narrowed, challenging. "Is it?" He spat in my face yet again, and I got a mouthful of saliva. I found myself speechless. "Let me go," he squirmed, holding my gaze for way longer than necessary. His lip quirked. "Let me go or I start screaming." I debated putting him down. Was he actually threatening me right now? I knew 5-year-olds were growing up in a different generation to me, but I was pretty sure they weren't threatening their parents. Before I could try and bargain with this kid, because making him cry was not a good look, he burst into an uncontrollable fit, and I panicked, letting him hit me in the face. "I see you've met Kazaria," a woman in her 40s with gaunt cheeks and hollow eyes greeted me with a tired smile. Sunny Hawthorne was pretty much exactly what I expected. A wiry woman in her mid-40s in a sculpted floral dress with a strict blonde ponytail. She gently scooped her screeching son out of my arms and set him down. Kazaria stopped crying. His gaze flashed to the front door, and his mother let it swing shut. He shot me one last piercing glare before scurrying away. "Kazaria is scared of new people," Sunny explained, her smile growing wider. I noticed half of her teeth were missing. "That Kazaria, that's an interesting name. Never heard that one before. Anyways. And look who else has come to see you," she laughed. Something hit me in the stomach, and I jumped, looking down at a girl about the same age as Kazaria, with wild curls hanging in her eyes. I wasn't expecting to be brutally judged by a 5-year-old. "Who are you?" the little girl demanded, folding her arms. Her stance reminded me of my mom when she was irritated. Hand on hip, head slightly tilted, her eyes shot to Miss Hawthorne, narrowing. Wow, this kid looked like she called the shots. "You know my brothers don't like new people," she scowled at her mother before grabbing my bag I'd just plopped down. The girl shoved it into my chest hard enough to hurt, making me stumble back out the door. "You can go now." "Melody Hawthorne," Sunny snapped, her expression twisting. I noticed the little girl flinch when she raised her voice, ducking her head. The woman shot me an apologetic look. "You're old enough to know that was rude. Say sorry to your babysitter." Melody wouldn't meet my gaze. "She'll scare my brothers," she whispered, her voice choking up. "I don't like her." She put way too much emphasis on "like," which made me consider walking away. The way she shied away from me made me wonder if I looked scary. Was I too tall? There was no worse truth than a child's brutal honesty, and I wasn't exactly thrilled to look after this spoiled little brat anyway. Her mother, however, refused to let it go. "I said," she said in a scary, commanding tone, and the girl ducked her head further, "apologize." Melody sniffled, glaring down at the floor, gripping the material of her dress. "Sorry," she spat. Sunny planted her hands on her hips. I wondered if Melody was copying her mother. "Chicken." Her tone was deliciously condescending. I was silently cheering her on. "Look your babysitter in the eye and say you're sorry." The little girl stamped her foot as if she was about to follow her brother's footsteps. Instead, she met my gaze, her expression twitching, lips wobbling like it was physically painful for her. Her eyes surprised me, darker than I expected for a child, hollow, like maybe her mother wasn't as nice as I thought. She was trembling, fingers curled into fists. The way she swiped at her tears and tried to blink them back reminded me of my younger self. I found my voice, strangled and small, like I was a kid again. "It's fine," I said, forcing a smile at Melody, effortlessly sliding into my baby voice. I knew I was grimacing. I knew, in some unspoken language between me and this little nightmare, that Melody could tell I wasn't playing games. Melody's glare might as well have been a knife splitting into my open skull. So sharp, so unapologetic. "Really, it's okay," I insisted, lying through my teeth. "I'm sure Melody is just looking out for her brothers," I added, smiling wider. The hellspawn refused to show weakness, settling on a rebellious death glare that I could have sworn felt physical, like laser death rays that would scorch my eyes out any second. Melody shot a glance at her mother, who was waiting patiently, before throwing her head back and marching back into the house. Sunny sighed, watching her daughter disappear down the hall in a pink huff. "I apologize," she said, ushering me inside. I stepped in hesitantly, half expecting an ambush of killer kids. As you can probably tell, my children are gifted. Wow, she's already gone through all of this, and she's like barely inside the door. I slipped out of my shoes, aware of Khazaria in the corner of my eye, glaring at me. The house was beautiful, warm and homely. The smell of chili drifted in from the kitchen, while the modern minimalist decor eased the knot in my stomach. Sunny led me down a hallway where a staircase curved upstairs, the wall lined with framed photos of the kids all the way up. Sunny, of course, continued her gifted children rant as she led the tour. "Melody and Khazaria both exhibit remarkable intelligence," she went on, her voice carrying an almost narcissistic smugness. "They're already at an advanced reading level." I rolled my eyes. Of course these kids were baby geniuses. "They're very different to other children," she said. "I would almost say that they're child prodigies. Melody is on track for a Pulitzer Prize, while Khazaria's art is displayed in the town gallery." Sunny nudged me toward the staircase. "The downstairs bathroom is out of bounds." She switched back to professional. "If the children need the bathroom, you will accompany them. If they protest, they lose screen time." Ouch. Admiring the hallway's paint job, a bright, sunny yellow, I noticed among the photos of the younger kids, an older brunette boy, teenage-aged, scowling in a private school uniform. He was the spitting image of his younger brother, sitting cross-legged on his bed, arms folded. I turned to Sunny. "Do you have older children?" Her gaze flicked briefly to the photo. "Ah, that's my eldest son," she said, her tone softening. "I lost him a few years ago." Something in my gut tightened. I was half watching Khazaria trying to act subtle, hiding behind his mother. He caught my eye, sticking out his tongue. "I am so sorry for your loss," I said. Instead of showering Miss Hawthorne in sympathy, though, I tried a lighter tone. "I don't think he liked being on camera," I laughed. "Was he always like that?" Sunny's expression lit up, like she was glad I'd asked. "He was always pulling that face," she chuckled. The way she stared longingly at her dead son choked me up. Khazaria was tugging at my dress, and I subtly thwacked his fist away. His mother traced her fingers over the frame hesitantly. "You can't see it, but I asked him specifically to pose in that exact spot. There's a chocolate cupcake behind him." She winked at me. 18 years old, and the only time he would go near a camera with his siblings was through bribery. Her smile soured slightly. Then, of course, he started college and just threw it all away. I found myself entranced by the boy in the photo, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "How did your son die?" "Ooh, yeah, no, you don't ask that." Suddenly, it felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. Her expression darkened. She turned away from the photo. "Sienna, the moment you came inside my house, you made an unspoken promise to care and respect my children." Sunny pulled the photo off the wall with a violent tug before turning back to me. "I would appreciate you staying out of my family's business." Ooh, that's cold, but she shouldn't have asked that question. She paused, and I could see vulnerability beneath her carefully made-up facade. Miss Hawthorne was slowly cracking. "My son died from an overdose," she said, her voice unwavering and eerily sterile. "While he was extremely gifted like his siblings, my son was also a deeply damaged boy who chose to prioritize his social life over education. He didn't ask for help and died peacefully at home with his mother and siblings by his side. When I couldn't find my words, she gestured toward the living room. Shall we continue the tour, or would you like his name, too? Khazaria grumbled something under his breath, and I shot him a look. I'm sorry, ma'am, I said, pushing my voice to sound sincere. Sonny shrugged. You're not the first, and certainly won't be the last, to ask questions. Her lips curved into a condescending smile. I appreciate your apology. I'll chalk this up to a simple misunderstanding. I'm sure you, unlike my children, were raised by a mother who didn't care to teach you basic manners. Excuse me? I couldn't swallow my squeak. Miss Hawthorne turned her attention to her son, bending down to ruffle his hair. Khazaria pushed her away, narrowing his eyes at me. It's a learning curve, Sienna, she finished, moving back down the hallway. Why don't we go and meet my third and final child? Khazaria shot me the side eye, letting out a quiet huff, his eyes staring daggers at his mother. Well, what do you know? We had a mutual enemy. Sienna, Miss Hawthorne snapped, hurrying me along. Today, please. I followed her into the dining room, where Melody sat on the carpet with a book. The room was charming and bright, fairy lights decorating the wall, gossamer curtains, and bay windows behind a couch sitting in front of the TV, dining table on the other side. Another small boy sat at the table with his knees drawn to his chest, head inclined, mouth slightly open. He reminded me of a cherub, bright blue eyes framed by a mop of golden curls. It took me a moment to realize his vacant stare was stuck to the TV, which wasn't actually on. Stevie, what did I tell you about slouching? Sonny gently sat him up. I didn't like the way his head lolled, his flickering eyes never leaving the black screen. She shook him, and the boy snapped out of it, his eyes lazily rolling to me before almost popping out of his head. He jerked to a sitting position. Holy shit, the little boy blinked rapidly at me. Who's she? Next to me, Khazaria burst into giggles, and I had to bite down on my lower lip. Melody, hiding behind her upside-down book, let out a snort, her shoulders shaking. A scarlet blush flooded Miss Hawthorne's cheeks. Stevie, she spoke calmly, maintaining her perfect smile. What did we talk about? Stevie groaned, tipping his head back. Khazaria, who dived onto the couch next to him, giggled. Think before I speak. Miss Hawthorne's expression hardened. Think before I speak what? The boy buried his head in his knees, grumbling. Think before I speak, Mommy. Miss Hawthorne straightened up, turning her attention to me. Stevie has what we call a photographic memory for vocabulary. He picks up anything he hears and can mimic it. Her smile curdled. That, of course, includes curse words. She didn't give me a chance to respond, and I was still struggling to come to terms with a 5-year-old cursing like a teenager. All right, that concludes the tour. I think that's everything. She turned to the kids, who were strangely quiet, sandwiched together on the sofa. Miss Hawthorne pecked each of them goodbye. Khazaria tried to bat her away, but she was up ready for him, pulling him into a squeeze. From his frantic eyes, he clearly didn't enjoy it, or the peppering of kisses on his forehead. Melody seemed to share the sentiment, pretending to gag. Stevie stuck his head between his knees, avoiding her attempt at goodbye kisses. Their body language was hard to ignore. These children despised their own mother. Why, I wondered, the question haunting the back of my mind. My thoughts snapped back to the photo of her dead son. Miss Hawthorne was undeniably controlling. Maybe the three of them secretly hated her for pushing their older brother to the point of overdose. Goodbye, darlings, their mother murmured, and the kids, like puppets on strings, nodded with wide smiles. I'll be back tomorrow morning, all right? Okay, Mom, all three chorused. Melody's grin faltered slightly, and Khazaria subtly elbowed her, his own widening. When she had gone, they dropped the act. Melody swiped at her lips, and Khazaria screwed up his face. Blah! He stuck out his tongue, wiping his hands on Melody. She always kisses with wet lips. I avoided her. Stevie shot him a grin, and his brother shoved him. Yeah, because you're her least favorite. Melody grabbed a cushion and thwacked him in the face, giggling. Kazariah scowled, hitting her back, which is a good thing. Stevie was hit in the face and started screaming. "You're so annoying." Kazariah hit him again. "I barely touched you." Stevie picked up the TV remote to bludgeon his brother, and I snatched it off him before I could witness him commit a felony. "Stay here," I told the three of them, and to their credit, they did actually stop hitting each other. I switched on the TV and played Bluey. The three of them started trying to kill each other halfway through the first episode, and so began my babysitting job from hell. After witnessing him unable to sit still for more than a second, I had already mentally diagnosed Kazariah with ADHD. He could barely focus on the TV, tried to hit Stevie over the head with it. His eyes were constantly flitting from one thing to another, and he got angry easily. Melody thrived on attention, pretending to throw up the tiniest amount of saliva and declare she was sick. Stevie was, objectively, the only normal one, though his obsession with trying to murder his brother was concerning. While Kazariah was playful with his hits, Stevie was actively trying to hurt him. I had to suggest they build a fort so I could childproof the house after they started fighting. Dinner time was challenging. All three refused to eat. Surprise, surprise. These kids may have been Satan's offspring, but the food provided was lukewarm chili. Nausea curled in my gut, watching it drip from the spoon in a splodgy lump. Kazariah said what we were all thinking. "I am not eating that," he announced, running into the living room. Melody immediately turned up her nose at the plate and demanded actual food. I tried everything. She hated spaghetti, mac and cheese, even Pop-Tarts, throwing a fit. She followed me around, hands on hips. "I want sushi," the little girl demanded. "California rolls with spicy mayo." She propped herself up on the counter while I was making pancakes for Stevie. "Make me sushi." The heat from the oven was overbearing. I was sweating, my ears ringing, my cheeks burning. "I can't make that for you, Melody," I hissed, scanning the cupboards for flour. "Why not?" "Melody," I slipped on one of her books, almost falling on my ass. Stevie, from his place at the table, giggled. "I want California rolls with spicy mayo," Melody screamed while I ran back and forth between the refrigerator and the cooktop, trying to make Stevie's pancakes. She drummed her hands on the cupboards, pushed chairs over, even got Stevie, who was mostly confused, to join in. "We want California rolls." Oh, it was we now. I turned to the scarlet-faced brat, suppressing the deep urge to scream in her face. "Hey," I crouched in front of her, "we don't have California rolls." I squeezed her shoulders. "Do you want me to make you something similar?" When her expression softened, I knew I had her. "Why don't I make you vegetarian sushi?" "Hey, lady," Kazariah shouted from the living room. "Why don't you just order sushi?" Melody, now fully supported by her brother, nodded smugly. I couldn't resist spitting out, "Thanks, kid." I wasn't expecting his response. "Welcome." "California rolls." Melody held out her hand like I was a wizard who could magically vomit out ready-made sushi. "Now." Stevie blinked at me in terror, catapulting pancakes in my face. He didn't like Nutella. I tried to remove the chocolate, and he collapsed into sobs, saying I ruined them. Melody continued her sushi tirade until I threatened her with bedtime. Instead, she summoned crocodile tears and accepted veggie rolls, before promptly dumping them in the trash and retiring to the couch. Kazariah, meanwhile, was doing who knows what in the living room. By the time 9 p.m. came around, I was mentally exhausted. They weren't sleepy. Of course they were hyper. I found myself in the kitchen around 10, trying to make myself coffee, when a crash sounded from upstairs. Kaz! I was already on a nickname basis with him. He was going to give me an aneurysm. Within 2 hours, he'd knocked down a bookcase and drew a very crude drawing on the wall. When I asked where he learned it, he threw the pen at me. Okay, so, little sidebar here. Is the scary part of this story just that kids, just kids? Is that it? That's the scary part? Like, that the kids are just terrible? Middle school, idiot. Kaz mimicked my voice before performing a clumsy cartwheel, head first into the stone fireplace. Melody squealed, hiding behind her book. Stevie, for unknown reasons, grabbed the remote. To my surprise, the hellspawn didn't erupt into a fit. Instead, Kaz lay there, his feet still in the air, while my heart was racing. "Hey lady," he mumbled when I helped him sit up. I checked his head for a concussion, but he seemed fine. Kaz blinked up at me, and for the first time, I saw real pain in his eyes. "My brain hurts." I wrapped my arms around him, surprised by my own affection. He tried to pull away, squirming, but I held him tighter. "It's okay," I told him. "That's not your brain that's hurting." I playfully bopped him on the head. "That's your head, Kaz." "No, pretty sure it's my brain," he grumbled. I pulled away. "Why don't you sit down and rest?" He opened his mouth to respond, glancing at the others. Stevie and Melody were standing together, wide-eyed. Kaz shifted uncomfortably, his gaze dropping on the floor. "I need to tell you something." "Oh?" I squeezed his shoulder, expecting a mess he was yet to reveal, pre-head smash. "What is it?" "Kaz." Melody's tone was suddenly terrifyingly cold, just like her mother's. Stevie nodded in silent agreement, shaking his head in one single jerk. I noticed the silent communication between them. Kaz's eyes narrowed, scrunching up his nose. Stevie glared at him, his lip curling. Melody stamped her foot in finality. "All right," I folded my arms. I figured I'd gain their respect by the way the three of them suddenly looked incredibly guilty. "What did you do?" Kaz rolled his eyes, sticking out his tongue at them before turning to me. "Never mind," he exclaimed, crossing his arms and turning away. Later, Stevie and Melody were fast asleep on the couch. They were so cute when they weren't conscious. I was hovering over them, trying to think of the best way to scoop them up and take them to bed, when a scream startled me. Kaz. Running upstairs and bursting in, I found the boy sitting in a dry tub. "Kaz!" I grabbed him, yanking him up. "Go away!" the boy shrieked, trembling. Red drops splattering the porcelain tub sent my heartbeat into overdrive. Dropping down beside him, I searched frantically for cuts, but found nothing. "Kaz!" My breath became heavy. "Where are you bleeding? Can you show me?" "No," he whined, lurching toward the toilet. "Just let me. My head hurts," he whispered, panting, his sharp breaths breaking into sobs. "My brain is too big." I sighed, relieved when I found no cuts or bruises. Gently, I pulled him away from the toilet. "Why don't I put you to bed?" I gave him a toothbrush, and he threw it in my face. "Screw you," he grumbled, sticking his pinky in his ear. "My brain hurts." "So does mine." I couldn't resist snapping back. "It's called a headache." When I helped him stand up, he tumbled out of the bathtub and dived into his mother's room, slamming the door. I tried the handle. Locked. "Kaz," I knocked. I was slowly losing my cool. "Open the door. I just need to make sure you're okay. Then you can have as many tantrums as you want." "Go away." The voice slammed into me like a wave of ice water. Adult. I ran downstairs, but I couldn't remember where my phone was. I grabbed a knife instead, bounding back up the stairs and forced the door open. There, on his knees, panting, was a grown man. "Excuse me?" For a moment, I was paralyzed. I opened my mouth to scream his name when the man doubled over, a screech ripping from his limbs. "Damn it!" The man sobbed as he doubled over, spitting blood. "I can't find it." He pawed blindly across the floor. "I can't find it." He turned to me, blinking wildly, eyes half-focused, blood pouring from his nose. "Please," he whimpered, his voice collapsing into a gut-churning wail as he jerked violently. "You've got to help me." Something came apart inside me when I realized what he meant, a vicious, agonizing dread beginning to take over me. I tried taking a shaky step back, but I couldn't move. His skin undulated like a snake, rippling up and down his spine. A fleshy lump of pink slid out of his ear, bleeding down the back of his neck. His brain was too big. The man groaned, burying his head in his arms. "My name's Kaz Hawthorne. I'm 23, he gasped, coughing up a mouthful of blood onto the carpet before collapsing to his knees. "That psycho witch," he spat, swiping at the pinkish froth on his chin. His brain was leaking out of his ears, I thought dizzily. His eyes were wild, desperate, and hauntingly familiar. Slowly, he staggered to his feet, arms windmilling like a child's, and I found myself scrambling back, shaking my head. She keeps turning me into a kid, and I can't find my doll. He stumbled closer, and realization sunk in. The photo. You're him, I choked out. He surprised me with a grin, childlike even when he didn't mean it to be. Mom said we failed, so we needed to start again. He dropped onto his knees, crawling under the bed. Where's my doll? Doll? I whispered. Kaz nodded, tearing Miss Hawthorne's room apart. Mom's dollhouse. We need to find it. My brain was already whirring. Start again, I thought. From birth? Without thinking, I grabbed the tissue and gagged, wiping pinkish sticky ooze from his face. Slow down, what do you mean? His eyes were scaring me, rolling back and forth like he was fighting to stay awake. I winced at the sludge running from his ear. Your mom did this to you because you didn't live up to her expectations? He didn't respond, holding up my phone. My phone. I've got your phone, his voice slurred, and he tipped sideways. Whoa. I steadied him. Stay still. Kaz's eyes were hollow, vacant and wrong like they didn't belong. I need to call my fiancée and tell her. He choked on a sob, tapping the screen. I don't know. I just need to... Damn it, I need to see her. She thinks I overdosed on coke, man. He grabbed me, just like a kid, his nails digging into my wrist. I'm 23, he whispered, as if he was trying to convince not just me, but himself. He finally let go, attempting to dart away, but his body gave up. When the man hit the ground, I grabbed a blanket and threw it over him. I can't move, Sienna, he whispered. I need to get out of this house. I can't breathe. She's always there, suffocating me. I can't breathe. She's going to kill me. Hey, idiot, another adult voice startled me. Twisting around, a looming man with thick blonde hair stood. His eyes narrowed at Kaz. I told you. Stevie. Acid filled my mouth. Miss Hawthorne had turned her adult children into babies. Screw off. Kaz grumbled in response to his brother. Where's the doll? Hell if I know, Stevie grumbled. Probably under the lock and key. Stevie's eyes flashed to me. He needs a doctor, he said. He helped me pull Kaz to his feet. Can you get us out of here? I bit back a harsher retort. You're an adult too. Obviously. So the photographic vocabulary, he cut me off, was BS? He mimed an explosion. Shocker. The two of us hauled Kaz from his room and halfway down the stairs. Stevie stayed close to me, his breath in my ear. We go straight out the front door, he whispered. Do you have a car, Sienna? I froze, dazed. Kaz awkwardly sprawled over my shoulders. I remembered. What about your sister? I'm coming too, another voice sounded from downstairs. A small girl appeared, in her early 20s, dressed in jeans and a tee, with the exact same nagging tone of a certain 5-year-old. Melody Hawthorne threw a bundle of clothes at her brothers, rolling her eyes. Get dressed, she instructed. You two look like unfinished Ken dolls. I told you to wait until tonight. Her eyes widened when she saw blood smeared down Kaz's face. She lunged forward, bursting into tears, her child self bleeding back into her eyes. Is Kaz okay? She helped us carry him downstairs, sobbing the whole time. Stay here, I told the three of them. I'm just going to get the car, okay? When their eyes widened, I hugged each of them. Damn, even as adults, I was undeniably attached to these little brats. You can't just walk out of the house as adults, I told them. I'll give a signal, and one by one you follow me to my car. Melody nodded, though Stevie looked sickly. But the evil witch is watching, Kaz mumbled into my shoulder. You're not listening to me. We need to find these dolls and rip off their heads. Stay here, I reiterated. Do not move. I opened the door slowly and darted down the driveway. The night air was cool, a relief on my flushed skin. I froze mid-run when I realized my car was gone. I darted back to the house, my stomach lurching. Before I could turn around, the Hawthorne door slammed shut. Damn it. I turned the handle, locked. Kids, I managed to gasp out. Open the door. Sienna, Stevie shrieked. We didn't lock it, he paused, his voice collapsing into a sob. I think Kaz is dying. His cry was an agonizing wail, both child and adult, so unnatural, so monstrous, I lost my breath. Stevie, I hissed. Stevie, is he breathing? I don't know, he sobbed. There's so much blood. I can't stop it, Sienna. We need to call an ambulance. I knocked again, but my fist hit paper. The paper door. Part of the paper house. The Hawthorne siblings' scream dulled to a low murmur. I stepped back, my stomach twisting. The Hawthorne home was no longer made of brick and cedar, but of pieces of paper, intricately folded and shaped as if by the hands of an artist. Slowly, the home itself began to collapse, the concrete underneath me bleeding into cardboard. I staggered backward, landing on the lawn on every blade of grass becoming paper. Scurrying back, the slow stream of paper, like a virus, was catching up to me. Lifting my head, the Hawthorne home was a single piece of paper. The paper door on the paper house where the paper dolls lived. Something sharp pricked into the back of my neck. Like ice-cold water rushing into my bloodstream, my body sagged forward. My vision blurred. My lips parted, but no sound came out. Sienna? Melody screamed from somewhere within the paper. The pounding on the paper door echoing, bouncing inside my skull. Sienna, what's going on? I wanted to answer her. I wanted to help Kaz, who was dying. Stevie, who was sobbing, half adult, half child. But so tired. Besides, weren't they just paper? I awoke 3 times. The first time I came to, I was slumped on Miss Hawthorne's shoulder. The world was swinging left and right. Left to right. The second time, I was lying on my back on concrete, staring at bloody markings, like runes, scratched into the ceiling of a dilapidated room. Miss Hawthorne's basement? A growing shadow bled over me. Miss Hawthorne, in her hands, a frantic ball of fur, held by the neck, some kind of animal. I only had to see the knife to know what was going to happen. I squeezed my eyes shut, the sharp screech of the animal collapsing into gurgles. Warm red droplets hit my cheeks, at first like rain, and I could imagine for just a moment that I was with Imogen again, riding our bikes in the summer rain as it drenched our clothes, hugging her, and deciding she smelled like summer rain. A raw shriek tore from my throat, agonizing, strong enough to send my body into an arch. When it came fast, boiling hot blood drowning me, scalding my skin. Miss Hawthorne stepped closer, and my vision blurred. In her scarlet, slick hands, a tiny paper doll. It has my eyes, I thought dizzily, and my mouth. My lips still parted, still screaming. The third time, I awoke groggy to fairy lights, pretty lights, blue and yellow, and the other color I couldn't grasp. Weird. It felt like I was upside down, my eyes dizzy, my thoughts plastic. I didn't notice how huge the Hawthorne living room was until I was lying on my back. So many weird corners and edges to the ceiling. Bright light filtered through the windows, and I found myself calling it pretty. A knock at the door sent me into a sitting position. Across the room, young Kaz sat alone, cross-legged and frowning at me. His siblings were nowhere to be seen. "It's all my fault," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." When I tried to speak, he turned away, and I could see the skin of his cheek torn and taped up. Paper. I jumped up, but my legs felt weird. I started toward him, but he shook his head. "Don't come near me." "Hello," a voice slammed into my ears, and I followed a long stretch of bleeding light that collapsed into something so bright I had to cover my eyes. I heard voices whispering in the doorway. A towering figure loomed over me, grinning. A giant man whose gaze suddenly found me. "Aw." He scooped me up into his arms, swinging me around like a toy. "Hello, Sienna." He chuckled as a grasp parted my lips. "I'm Sam. I'm going to be your new babysitter." Okay, yeah. I don't know if you guys are with me on this one, but that one definitely gave me some legitimate chills. That's like a bad fever dream. Anyways, let me know what you guys would do if you went to babysit some 5-year-olds and then you got the world turned to paper and you turned into a 5-year-old. That's all the Minecraft and scary Reddit stories I have for you today. If you liked the video, drop a like and subscribe. If you didn't, thanks for watching anyways.